Okay, we're going to talk about autism. Can autism be reversed? Okay, first of all, I have nothing to do with the treatment of kids with autism. I took care of kids. I was in a summer camp counselor when I was young, many years ago, a lot of autism kids. I've seen a lot of autism kids and the children of friends. But why did I get interested in this? Because I saw a TED Talk by this lady, Catherine Reed. She's a biochemist. And she says that her daughter had moderate autism and that it was reversed when she changed the child's diet. Now, she's a biochemist, so she knew a lot about nutrition. She taught a nutritional biochemistry class. She felt the most important things were avoiding gluten, casein, and MSG. And she studied MSG in some detail and found that it has basically about 50 different names. It's often called things like extract, protein extract, or something else extract. Whenever you see the word extract, be worried about MSG. Whenever you see the word natural flavors, just consider it MSG and don't buy or eat that product. And there's a whole bunch more of them. I recommend you watch her video. She does seem to be real. It does seem to be true what she says. She's got videos of the child before and after suggesting the child did recover from autism. She's been in a bunch of newspaper articles and interviewed on other settings. So that's her name, Catherine Reed. The name of her TED Talk is called Unblind My Mind. Okay, what else? Autism's become very common. I was just reading about it. 1 out of 25 boys nowadays has autism spectrum disorder, call it ASD. It's less common in girls, but still relatively significantly common enough in girls. MIT researchers claim that they've been able to reverse some of the symptoms of autism in mice with some genetic procedure. I've also seen some other case reports of autism being reversed. These are all pretty rare, but they do exist. Autism kids tend to have more problems with their gut bacteria. They're more likely to have abnormal gut bacteria and to have leaky gut. Leaky gut's sort of the familiar way of saying increased intestinal permeability. There's a lot of things that cause leaky gut. We've got some separate lectures on this subject, but some of them are antibiotics because it'll kill a lot of the gut bacteria. Chloride, the chlorine that's put into water as part of the water filtration process, kills a lot of gut bacteria. That's why I think it's good to have a whole house carbon filter. Also, as far as antibiotics, my opinion is don't take antibiotics unless you need them. I mean, if you need them, you got a bacterial infection, fine, but a lot of people take them at too low of a threshold and you start getting, a lot of times they'll kill the good gut bacteria and you're stuck with more of the so-called bad gut bacteria. A lot of pesticides and herbicides, especially in non-organic food. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. I studied organic food, non-organic food. You really don't want to eat non-organic food. It's bad for you. My advice, don't ever eat it if you have a choice. There's going to be a special occasion, you're out at a restaurant and they're going to be feeding you, food that probably is non-organic, it probably has MSG in it, and on that special occasion, maybe that's okay for you. But what I'm saying is on a daily basis, don't even have the stuff in your house would be my advice. You got to check your pantry real careful because tons of things will have MSG in them in a hidden way. She's pretty good, this lady, Catherine Reed, about going over all the details of how to recognize MSG and avoid it. One of the simplest ways is don't eat anything when there's multiple things on the list of ingredients. It's best to buy something that you just put in a bag, like beans or rice or something. And there is no ingredient label. But if you're going to buy something, let's say oatmeal, get it with only one thing, oatmeal. That's it. Whenever they start putting more ingredients, the more ingredients there are, the higher likelihood that food's going to have MSG in it. Other things that will cause leaky gut, saturated fat. Don't eat any meat. Like I said, I recommend 100% plant-based diet because the saturated fat in meat is associated with causing leaky gut, increased intestinal permeability. You got that whole spectrum of inflammation and potential autoimmune disease. Again, the herbicides and non-organic, trust me, they're far worse than the average person realizes. Stay away from them. High fructose corn syrup, industrial high fructose corn syrup, bad stuff. Don't ever drink it. The only thing you should drink is water, except for, let's say, a pre-workout meal of beet juice, for example. It's my advice. Yeah, and again, when I give this advice, I realize most people aren't going to follow it, but most people are fat and sick. If you want to be skinny and strong and smart and perform at your best, then you want to try to optimize your nutrition and do the same for your kids. How you as a parent train your kids and teach them about food, that's the habits they're going to carry with them the rest of your life. And again, it comes down to If you're satisfied by not being as fat as your cousin, well, fine. But if you ever want to be excellent, top-notch intellectually and physically, then you need to have high standards. And I'm just trying to show you what I've learned, so hopefully that'll help you. Don't eat any of these oils. They can cause leaky gut. All the oils are bad for you. Olive oil is bad for you. They're all bad. Stay away from them. Okay, what else? Food dyes. Watch out for these food dyes. They've got these nice-sounding euphemistic names, red number 40 or whatever else their names are. They're all, in my opinion, something that should be avoided. You don't want to eat a food that's got these food dyes in them. A lot of times, they're euphemisms for these really long, complex chemicals. And some of them, there's literature suggesting that they can be associated with declines in cognitive performance, problems with calcium metabolism, problems with, like the sarcoplasmic, endoplasmic reticulum, calcium ATPase, for example. You don't want anything to do with this type of stuff. Again, avoid processed foods and you'll avoid all this stuff. Food preservatives. Some of these food preservatives are associated with impairing calcium metabolism in the brain. Avoid them. And what's the best way to do that? Only eat single or double ingredient foods and no non-organic foods. Avoid cleaning chemicals to the extent you can. A lot of these cleaning chemicals are toxic. Anything that's going to kill eukaryotes is also going to be toxic to humans. And be careful with all these detergents. A good example is a dog. If you took a bar of soap and you put it in the dog's face, the dog would be like, get away from me. I don't know why people love chemicals so much. You're not made for them. I think it's because they have no evolutionary ancestral experience with them. For example, you see a snake and you have this instinctual fear of the snake and disgust at it, and that's a good thing. You avoid the snake. Whereas chemicals didn't exist for our ancestors, so we don't have any programming instinctual to avoid them. And I see people, they always want to, they have to use a laundry detergent dishwasher and they put all this soap on the dishes. You don't need to do that. Before I got married, I never had a dishwasher. I just rinsed my plate off, rinsed my cup off. I was fine, okay? The reason people end up needing a dishwasher is because they're cooked with oils. They're kind of a big mess, and you might want the dishwasher, but you shouldn't be cooking with oils. So a lot of these modern conveniences, they don't make you any healthier. Carpet chemicals really toxic. Like some people will get their carpets washed with all these toxic chemicals, or buy brand new carpets, then they have their kid playing on the carpet and it's full of toxic chemicals, can make the poor kids sick. We talked about avoid deodorants. Don't put any chemical on yourself you don't need. There's always going to be bad stuff in any of these types of chemicals. Sunscreen, I wouldn't put sunscreen on. I think it's stupid. All right, vegan diet. I recommend it, of course. Organic, 100% plant-based. You're going to get a lot more antioxidants. That's what the AO is for. Like vitamin C, you're going to be able to replenish your glutathione antioxidant system, which helps to detoxify a lot of the other things you're exposed to. You want the fiber. All plant foods, they stabilize their cell wall, plants, and they do it with cellulose, with fiber. And that's totally different than an animal food. An animal stabilizes its plasma membrane with cholesterol. So the animal foods are always going to have cholesterol. The plant foods are always going to have fiber. Fiber is good. Excess dietary cholesterol is bad. Another reason to eat plant foods. You need the fiber because the fiber feeds the good gut bacteria. When you eat a lot of plant foods, you have a lot of good gut bacteria. And the plant foods take that fiber to cellulose, for example, and they convert that into short-chain fatty acids, typically a 4-carbon fatty acid called butyric acid. It's also often called butyrate. Butyrate's the same thing as butyric acid. Butyrate just represents the deprotonated form. Okay, it's like butane, 4-carbon alkane. You now put a carboxylic acid on there, and it's butyric acid, okay? And the point is the butyric acid feeds the good gut bacteria, and it also then helps to maintain the enterocytes. The gut's called the enteric tract. So enterocytes are the lining cells of the colon. You could call the colon lining cells the colonocytes, if you will. But this process of the symbiotic relationship of dietary fiber, feeding the good bacteria, then making butyric acid, the butyric acid being used by the enterocytes to maintain their tight junctions, that maintains a healthy gut lining and it prevents leaky gut. The plant foods also have more magnesium vasodilator, potassium vasodilator to ensure good blood supply throughout the body and help the tissues to heal. More folate. Folate comes from the Latin word for foliage, for plant foods, from the leaves of the tree. So anyways, this is how you keep healthy. And I don't have experience treating autism, but I do know a lot about the brain, and you want good brain habits, avoid the bad brain habits. Check out what this lady has to say, read more about it on your own, and hopefully if you have a child with this autism spectrum disorder, these things will be helpful to the kid. They're just helpful for good brain health in general, and maybe they'll be quite helpful to your kid. I don't know, but I hope so.